Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome back. Sorry that it's been a hot minute, but this is, of course, my March reading wrap-up, which is very exciting. This time was a bit less than January and February for sure. I read a total of 12 books and 2 plays, so, still doing something, but not as much as I was doing in January and February, but that's okay. I think it's low-key just because I had spring break and I was kind of just like chilling with my family and having a grand old time doing that, and I wasn't really reading for like that like 10 days or whatever I had. And yeah, I don't know, I kind of went in a reading slump a little bit, but we'll talk about her. We'll talk about her. Um, so I guess we'll just jump in. So the first thing I read this month was a play. It's This Is Our Youth by Kenneth Lonergan. This was a reread for me, first reread, I think, actually, of 2022, now that I'm thinking of it. That might be a lie, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Um, I love this play a lot. I think it's really amazing. Kenneth Lonergan, he's like a famous playwright, but he's also a famous director. He also wrote Manchester by the Sea, which you might know, the movie with like Lucas Hedges and Casey Affleck. Great, amazing. Um, I read this initially because, oh, I saw it live. I saw like uh, what's it called? It was over Zoom. It was like a play. My friend and I saw, we paid for to see Lucas Hedges and Paul Mescal, Phoebe Bridgers' boyfriend, in it. And it was amazing. We both really liked it. We got it because we both love Lucas Hedges and then also Paul Mescal, so that's why we got it. But whatever. We watched it and we loved it. And so then I went and read it, and then I ended up using Jessica's monologue occasionally in auditions every once in a while. And now I'm doing for my capstone for like my graduating is a directing capstone where we have to direct a 10-minute scene and do like this whole production notebook for it, like how a normal director would and stuff. So I'm doing This Is Our Youth by Kenneth Lonergan. So I reread it, the whole thing in its entirety to do for that play, to do for like the for like directing it. But I've read like sections of it now like endless times. But yes, so that's the first one. Very fun, very cool, very school related, but we move on. The next book is my second reread of 2022. I reread Redeemed by Lauren Asher, which is the fourth book in the Dirty Air series. I love this book. It was a 5-star last year when I first read it. It's still a 5-star. I read it when I was at home because I have the physical copy, but I lent it to my sister so she could read it because she's never read it before. And I read it. I kept thinking about it and kept being like, I just really want to reread this. So I read it when I was home and had the copy available to me. And I love it. I still love it. And it just brings me so much joy. I personally didn't really like the first two books of the Dirty Air series, which are Throttled and Collided. Yeah, I didn't really like those two as much. I still liked them, but they weren't like my favorite. And I think those two are very similar to me in a lot of aspects. And then Wrecked is the third one. I love Wrecked. Low-key would suggest it to anyone. I think you should read all of them, but Wrecked is really amazing. And then after it's Redeemed, which is just absolutely amazing. Honestly, you could read this book without even having read the other 3 books. Like that's what my sister's doing. She's not reading the other 3 books. She's just reading Redeemed. Of course, I would still recommend doing it, but Lauren Asher's amazing, and yes, very fun. Okay, next I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, which I was very hesitant about this book because I have a strange relationship with Christina Lauren. Their first book that I read was My Favorite Half Night Stand, and I did not enjoy it at all. I really did not like it. I really disliked it, and it just was not for me, which was fine, but I just was really thrown off because I just heard so many great things about Christina Lauren, and I was just like, oh shoot, now I'm like second guessing if I'm gonna like everything that they write. And then I had already put in the library, and I just like totally forgot about it, their book Roomies, and I like got it through my library, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll read this. I like don't even know what it's about. I don't even know why I did put it in my library. I guess maybe I got a recommendation for it. I literally have no memory of any of that, but I did, and I read it, and that was okay. It wasn't my favorite book. I didn't love it, like I said, but I still think it was better. So it was like I had like an awful experience with Christina Lauren, and then I had like a pretty mid-tier experience with Christina Lauren. And I had heard everyone and their mother talking about the Unhoneymooners. I mean, it's like got the same vibe of like, it's the same vibe as like, I don't know, like beach read to me, or like, I don't know, maybe even like the Spanish Love Deception. I don't know, that vibe of just like a beach vacation, going, chilling, like, I don't know, like falling, like, I don't know, kind of fun. Um, and I was cold in the beginning of March, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet and I'm going to do it. It came up in my library, and I was like, I had been putting it off for so long, and I finally did it. I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would. Speaking of highly talked about books, my next book was also a super highly talked about book. It is the Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is the first in the Brown Sisters trilogy by, not my burp, I'm sorry, Talia Hibbert. Um, I had heard such great things about this, especially the series in the whole. Um, I definitely liked Get a Life, Chloe Brown. It was not my favorite read. I think also, because if you don't know anything about it, the author is British, so it's a British book, which honestly I don't really read a lot of British authors, so it was like, I could tell a difference, not that like all British authors are the same and like all of them different, whatever, but I could just tell like sometimes I'd be like, oh, that was an interesting way to say that or something, and it was kind of a fun little like, ooh, like this is a British person talking right now. But basically the story is Chloe has this disease, I don't remember the name, but it gives her like a lot of pain a lot of the time, and she just kind of has to change her life sometimes and like stay inside sometimes more, and like she can't do everything that she would maybe want to do or could previously do, but she's still like a perfectly healthy person that just needs like more rest than other people sometimes. And she's living, and her um, landlord, there we go. Well, I guess he's not her landlord. He's her like superintendent, basically, which is Redford or Red. He is, yeah, it's kind of like enemies to lovers. Like Red has been burned by like posh, as they say, but like rich girls, kind of like rich snobby girls, which Chloe is rich, and he kind of just thinks Chloe's another one of them that's just like snobby and like doesn't care about him, and like thinks he's like below her because like he's like, I don't know, like I guess like working class and like she's not. Um, and all this stuff. So he kind of has like this frustration towards her, and then Chloe just feels kind of like awkward a lot because like she's been burned in the past, because like people can't accept her disease and like accept the limitations she might have, or like the like differences she might have to other people. So they kind of both have this thing, and then Chloe decides to make like a list of things she wants to do to like make her life more interesting, to get a life, actually is what she says. That's why it's Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is all very exciting. And yeah, she does it, and she does the list with Red, and it kind of like bonds them. And I think it's really cute. I really did like the book. I am currently now reading the second in it, which I think is Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which I'm liking that one a lot more. So I might do a video on like all three of them once I finish all three of them, but I am enjoying the second one more. But still, I would still highly recommend this book. I still think it's really good and cool to read. So, okay, this is the time in March where I kind of was reading like really good books that I was really enjoying, and then I kind of started hitting some snafus, you might say, and started reading ones that were not my favorites. And that started with The Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy, which is the first in the Avalon Bay series. This book was very interesting to me. I have read a decent amount of Elle Kennedy. I mean, I read the whole Off-Campus series and the Briar U series, and then I've read Top Secret, which is her and someone else, I think Serena Bowen. Anyways, so I've read like a decent amount of Elle Kennedy, and Elle Kennedy is interesting because sometimes she just like really hits, and sometimes she just like nails it on the head, I feel like, and has just such a great book that I just love and can't wait to get through, and has such amazing characters and all this, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes she has books that I'm just like, yeah, okay, like sure, like not my cup of tea, I'm sure someone else liked it, like whatever. This book was very interesting to me. I had heard a lot of like not great things about it before I read it, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna read it anyway. It was on my list, and like again, it came up on the library, and I was just like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. Basically, the book is like Mackenzie or Mac. She is like this like rich girl who has like her own business and like has done all these things, and she took a gap year between going to college, and then her parents really wanted her to go to college, so she's going to college. Great. She has this boyfriend who like they've been together forever. They're expected to kind of get married and like have this perfect white picket fence life with their like rich people stuff. Great. And then on the flip side, we have Cooper, who is like a local townie. I think it takes place, I don't really remember when it takes place. I think it takes place in like Avalon Bay, yeah. Which I'm not really sure where it's supposed to be. I would probably guess like New York, New Jersey, but maybe I'm wrong in that thought, but that's where I thought it would be placed. He's a townie, he's lived there his whole life. Yeah, he's been like, worked really hard his whole life, like blue collar, not a lot of like privilege in his life, whatever, other than being a white male, cis male, you know. And then he is working at this job, he's like a bartender, and this guy comes in and like starts being like really awful and grabby and disgusting with his friend who's a server, so he tries to like step in and help her, and they get into a fight, and this dude and Cooper get into a fight, and eventually the dude is like, I'm gonna tell everyone to like stop coming to the restaurant. I don't know, whatever. Cooper gets fired, and Cooper's really upset at this dude who did it to him, and is like, I need to get revenge on him. Like these like rich pricks think they can do like anything to us, and like we're never gonna do anything. So basically, he comes up with this plan that he is going to get back at him by getting his girlfriend, who happens to be Mackenzie, to like fall in love with Cooper, and then like start dating or sleep with Cooper, I guess is the rough estimate of the plan. It's stupid. It's a stupid plan, and it's like, are there really people that meet in this earth that like someone wrongs you, so you go to their girlfriend who didn't have anything to do with this exchange and go to manipulate her to the point that like she would possibly cheat on her boyfriend to be with you even though you're not interested? I don't know. It's just like insane to me that is like a thing that he was like, that's a great idea. So anyways, he starts doing that and like starts talking to her, and then like they like start, he's like, oh my god, she's actually like a cool person, oh my gosh. But I just had so many problems with this book. First off, that plot is insane, that is like what's happening. It gave me very like After vibes, but in an awful way. I mean, I don't like After, so it gave those rancid vibes, I feel like, of just like, how could you ever fall in love with someone who would do that to you, like after she knows what happens, like, because she finds out, obviously. So it's like, how would you get past that? I don't understand that. And then just like, I don't know, the characters were just really boring to me, and just like, I felt like so two-dimensional. It was just very like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Also, like, the title Good Girl Complex, I just am like, what? Like, I don't know. It just felt so weird and like sticky and like, ugh. And she was trying to make like commentary on like different like, I guess like classes, because she's like very like upper class and he's like lower class, which is fine and cool, and we love like the difference and stuff, but I just feel like it was in a super weird way of like her flexing on him a lot, but like in a weird, like, I don't know, like she just kept flexing on him. Like she would be like, yeah, well, like I already made my first like million by the time like I was still in high school because I started this company. And I'm like, yeah, because you had millions at your disposal because you're a rich girl. Like what? Like that's not that's not impressive, but it's like, okay, but you need to understand you have all of this privilege that helped you get there. Like, yes, still you made the company and had the idea and like had all this stuff, but you also had the money to back that up, and the education that you received from being this really wealthy person. Just, I don't know. And she just like was so unaware. She was just like, I have problems too. And I was like, no one's saying you don't have problems. It's just their problems are more readily, like they're like need to deal with them more because they're like running out of money and stuff. Like your problems are not as big as their problems, kind of, you know? I don't know. She was just really annoying to me. Was not a fan of Mackenzie. I think their relationship was weird. Not my favorite. But it started this downfall, I feel like, of my March reads. Next book, you know how last month in my February reading wrap-up video, I said I went on this like tangent of really liking, not tangent, that's not the right word, though, this like span of really liking and craving pregnancy trope books, well, that did not go away. Now it just kind of turned into single parent trope books, which, you know, I don't have any excuses. I think it's just, that's what, I don't know, sometimes I just get in that way of like, I don't know, it's just like what I want to read. Like sometimes I really am like, oh my god, I need like a grumpy sunshine book right now, or like I need an enemies to lovers, or I need blah blah blah. And you know what, right now it's been single parent. So the first of the month for me for single parent was 1% of You by Michelle Gross, which basically the plot of this one was Hadley has a 4-year-old daughter, Lucy, and is pregnant with her second, and she moves next door, and she's a single mom, and she moves next door, and she's like working to become a nurse, and is like really hardworking and stuff. And she was a teen mom like originally and stuff. I think she's like 22 now or something like that. Anyways, she moves next door to Elijah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Elijah. Elijah is a tattoo artist, which is kind of fun, but he is very like, I am not a relationship person, classic, you know, it's kind of grumpy sunshine-ish. I don't know. So basically they start kind of forming a relationship because Elijah like kind of starts bonding with Lucy, the daughter, and yeah, so it's really great. Go blah blah blah. But this had like weird. The only qualm I had with this book, it had like weird language surrounding the mother because she was a single mom. She was married to the baby daddy, but he cheated on her with her cousin, so she got divorced. And yeah, and she was like willing to give like split like half custody. That's not split custody. Yeah, split custody. Yeah, that's what it's called, I think. But like he just was like kind of like a deadbeat dad that didn't really want to do anything and like just kind of like moaned and groaned, but like never really wanted to spend any time with his daughter or his future son, which will be Eli. Eli is born in the book, and all this stuff. But they talked about Hadley, the mom, in such a weird way. It was like talking about like these people who like are on welfare and like would rather just like use that instead of working. And I was like, what is with this gross narrative that we're perpetrating by these books that like people on welfare don't need welfare and they're just like abusing the system? It's so messed up and it's such a awful thing. And this book had it in it, and I was just so shocked and taken aback, and it really just like really put the book way, way, way lower than it would have been if they just like didn't make such awful comments about people. I also just like don't get it. And then they tried to make it kind of like Hadley's not like other girls too. Like it was kind of women hating in like other ways of like shaming women for having like having a sex life and like shaming women for like getting pregnant when they're not and married and like things like that. That was like, whose business is this? Why are you making like weird comments about this, Michelle Gross? I don't get it. So I liked the book, but except for those comments, so it brought them way down. So I don't know. Left a weird taste in my mouth for sure. Okay, the next book, we stay true with the single parent trope. This time we have the newspaper Nanny by Maren Moore, which also made me laugh. It always made me, every time I looked at the author and saw that it was Maren Moore, made me think of Maren Morris, like the singer. That one song was sad, like, baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle? That song, you know that song? That's like very similar names, which I found funny. But basically, this one is Juliet is she is studying to become a teacher and she needs a job. So she looks at like the newspaper, and that's why it's called the newspaper Nanny, and finds a nannying job. That's like perfect and whatever. And then the man of the book, I was gonna say boy, but that feels weird because he's like a father, I don't know, whatever, is Liam, and he is like this NHL coach who his wife died, I want to say. Yeah, I think she died. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And he's like really busy and he doesn't really have time to be there, and like he needs a full like live-in nanny and all these things. And he's very closed off, and basically Juliet comes in and there's two girls, one's 3 and one's 5, I believe. Yeah, I didn't love this book. It felt very like cliche. It was very like the kids are super coherent and super like intelligent when they're just 3 and 5, which I hate in books. Like if you're gonna have kids, have them act like kids. Um, but I mean, it wasn't the worst. I honestly can't remember that much about it, so that kind of tells you the whole review right there. It's not super memorable. I didn't hate it. I read the whole thing, obviously, so like, I think is kind of my review for it. Take that with a grain of salt, how you will. Next book I read, still sticking true to the single parent trope, was Juniper Hill by Devney Perry, which is the second in the Edens book series. I did not read the first in the Edens book series. Gosh, can I talk? But I just picked this one up. So basically the premise is Memphis has a newborn son. He's like very young. And she has taken him, like, I'm pretty sure from like New York to she drives out to like, I want to say Montana or Wyoming. I kind of forget. I think it's Montana. But she takes him all the way there and to like to this like small town to like start her life over. Like she's like, I need like a whole new life. So basically she becomes like a maid at this like small inn that they have, and her neighbor is Knox, and he is also the chef at the restaurant that's like in the inn as well, and like his whole family owns like the inn and the restaurant and like a bunch of things. Like they're like the like wealthy like the super wealthy family of the small town. And yeah, it kind of just like they form a relationship. Again, this one was not my favorite. I think it moved really fast. I wish it was longer and like took more time with it, because I liked the characters and I liked the like premise and the idea, but then it was like Memphis gets there. Knox doesn't like her. All of a sudden, like Knox and Memphis are together and it's great, and like I don't know, it felt very weird, but I will say I will give the author credit where credit's due. There were a couple twists and turns in this book that I was like, huh? Like I definitely didn't expect them. And that doesn't always happen in romance books, because a lot of times they're more, they can be kind of formulaic sometimes. Not all the time, obviously, there's a million that aren't, but sometimes they can be, and you can kind of predict what's going to happen and whatever. This one had some things that were a bit more out there, and you know what? I'm going to respect the choice that the author made to make those choices, and hats off to them. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite, but again, it wasn't like a bad one. If you're looking for a single parent trope read, kind of fun, but also I don't love that as much either one that's a single parent trope with like a newborn versus like a small child, like 4 or 5 or 6 or something, where they have like more of a personality and like a voice in the book. But it was still fun, still good. Yes. The next one is the second and final play of March, which is Dryland by Ruby Ray Spiegel. I read this I'm doing it for like my senior showcase for my audition seminar class, which is just like teaching me how to audition effectively for the professional world, basically. And the senior showcase is like people can see it and see our talents. We can showcase our talents. But basically Dryland is very cool. It does deal with a lot of sensitive topics, especially abortion, but basically the character that I will be playing, Amy, is in high school and she is pregnant, and she does not want to be pregnant anymore, and she doesn't really have the option of getting an abortion through like surgical methods or like the pill or anything like that, because she would have to tell like her mom, and she doesn't want to do that. So she kind of enlists her new friend Esther, and they're both on the swim team too, I guess I should say that, Esther, to kind of help her in this journey of trying to end her pregnancy. And I think it's really poignant, especially in the dealing with the vulnerability of like young women, especially in high school, and this towing the line of like, I don't know, like not knowing who you are really yet in the world, but the world wanting you to so badly, and like also people hating on everything you do, no matter what you do, because you're a young female. and kind of the pressure that can have, and the double standards. And I don't know, I think it's really beautiful if you are okay with those topics. And please check the trigger warnings, because there's some heavier things that can happen on stage, but I think it's a really beautiful play, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. Yes. Okay. Next we have The Fire Between High and Low by Brittainy C. Cherry, which is the second in the Elements series, which I did read the first in the Elements series, which is The Air He Breathes. And then it's what did I literally just say? The Fire Between High and Low, and then it's The Silent Waters, and then it's The Gravity of Us, which I've read The Air He Breathes, and now I'm talking about The Fire Between High and Low. And like, get it? It's like the elements, because it's like each one's like a different element. Anyways, so I read The Air He Breathes a while ago, and I really liked it, but it's really heavy. I've noticed I've read a couple Brittainy C. Cherry books now, and they're really heavy. And that's not always like what I'm most excited to read. So I just kind of spaced these books out more. Honestly, to the Element series, there's like not any correlation yet that I've experienced, so it doesn't really matter. So basically, it is the story of Logan and Alyssa, and they are best friends. Well, okay, so Logan's brother, he's his half-brother, older half-brother, is dating Alyssa's older sister, and like that's how Logan and Alyssa know each other. And they're like 18 or 17 when the book starts, I believe. But basically they're like best friends, and they have been for a while now, and they kind of rely on each other for a lot because they both have really hard lives for separate reasons. But they find like comfort in each other, and it's really beautiful. And then they kind of decide to be a couple and like have this romantic relationship as well as their friendship. And I don't want to like spoil anything. Like, things ensue, and they kind of get thrown apart for a while. And then the second half of the book picks up, I think it's 5 years later, and they're kind of like, Logan is back in town, and they're being faced with each other again. And I think it's really beautiful. I have found, I guess I should say, Brittainy C. Cherry has a way of making you just like smile during her books. I don't know why. The things she says in them are so cheesy, but in the best possible way, and they make me smile ear to ear, and they make me like so happy, because that love she is explaining is so real and visceral to me. She has such a talent of like explaining it, and making you feel it through the pages. It's really beautiful. I think my only qualm, like I said, is just heavier books. They deal with like a lot of heavy stuff, so it's not easy to get through the book because you're sad. You're sad, and you're hurt and angry about these situations that these people are in, and you just want the best for them. So that's my only qualm. So, but if you really like sad romance books, these are the books for you. I'm going to continue reading the Element series, but it'll probably be like more spaced out, but you'll get to see that. The next, speaking of, is that I read was Eleanor and Gray, also by Brittainy C. Cherry. This is another single parent book because, of course, this has kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of have a similar structure to The Fire Between High and Low, of like, Eleanor and Gray were friends in high school, and like a couple in high school, and then sad life things happen, and they kind of get thrown apart again. This time, though, I think it's like a 10-year or 15-year, I think it's 15 years between, and then the second half of the book is like 15 years later, and Gray is now a dad, and his wife has recently passed, and Eleanor is looking for a new nannying position, and she just like randomly goes to this job and like doesn't even know who she's going to be for, and then she finds out that it's her childhood sweetheart. And yeah, and he was like there for her at her lowest point, and now she can kind of help him at one of his lowest points because he's still dealing with like the death of his wife. And I don't know, I really liked it. I don't think, again, it was just, she has a way of like explaining love, like I said, but it's just really dark, and it's really hard sometimes to get through that, and I think that goes through that book too. Okay, the next book I read was probably my favorite of March. it was kind of really unexpected. It's been on my list for a while and I just hadn't picked it up because it didn't sound that good to me, like the like little blurb, but I highly recommend it. I really liked it. It's Make It Sweet by Kristen Callihan, which I also didn't realize. I read the whole I don't remember what that series is called. I think it's like the Hot Shot series or something like that by Kristen. Like previously, and I liked them. They weren't my favorite, but I liked a couple of them. But I love Make It Sweet. I literally love this book. So basically, the premise of this book is that Lucian is Lucian was a hockey player, professional hockey player, but because of like a injury that he faced, like a brain injury, he kind of has to stop playing to make sure that he can stay safe and stay like in the same cognitive level that he is currently at. And he's really struggling with that because hockey's been his life for his whole life. And that's like kind of all he thinks he's good at, and it's kind of what he's defined himself as. And then on the flip side, we have Emma, who is an actress, which also I always love. I love when there's like a famous person in the book. I think it's just because I want to be an actor, so like hearing about actors falling in love is like really beautiful to me, and like I really am like, that's so cute. Because I don't know, I see myself more in that role, or it's like kind of more of the dream life that I want to have, so it like fits more into that, you know what I mean? But same thing with like musicians, or like in the Dirty Air series, like athletes, or like whatever. I just like love that trope of like one being like famous. I don't know, yeah. I mean, in this one they're both famous, but I was more on Emma because I was like, she's a famous actress. But anyways, she's in this like huge TV show. It kind of gave me vibes that it was supposed to be like Game of Thrones-esque. She plays like this princess character, but basically her character has been written off. She's been killed and she's out of a job. And it's kind of her struggling with like what she wants to do next in her career, and like trying to like not be pigeonholed into like one thing of like who, like typecasted of who she can play, but she's also struggling with like getting opportunities and getting roles and knowing what she wants and like all of the stuff. So basically both of our main characters are just like at a loss, and they both end up at this like, this time it's Lucian's grandmother's house, and so that's why Lucian's there. And then Emma's there because it's like Emma's grandmother is friends with Lucian's grandmother, and it's like she can stay at this like, she's like in a state in like Southern California, which is insane. I can't imagine how much that is. Literally insane. But she has this like entire estate, so they have like multiple houses like on this like beachfront basically. Yeah, so basically they stay there, and they kind of both are attracted to each other, but both don't really want to like do anything about it because they know it would like end poorly because they're both not in the right headspace. And yeah, and I don't know, it's just like fun and great. Yes, I don't know. I don't know why I liked it so much. I just think it was really sweet, and I really liked Lucian. I thought he was very cute. And I love when it's like such a like soft boy when they're with like whoever they like. I think that's just like the cutest thing ever, when they're just like so like sappy and soft. I love that. I love that. So that was very much this book. And then I also read, speaking of that, I read Dear Enemy, also by Kristen Callihan, which my only qualm is, I like this book too, but my only qualm is, this book, Dear Enemy, is technically first in the world of the Make It Sweet world, which I did not know. I randomly got recommended Make It Sweet like months and months and months and months ago. And no one told me that I should read Dear Enemy first. I would have, because the couple in Dear Enemy is in Make It Sweet. I mean, not for a huge part of it, but I still would have liked to know that. So know that first. If you're going to read these, read Dear Enemy first. This was technically also the last book I read this month, but I'm just going to lie and say it wasn't, just because I was already talking about Make It Sweet, whatever. You guys can use your imagination. But basically the story is in childhood. I read a lot of childhood ones. I didn't realize this. Now that I'm going through these, I'm like, I read a lot of ones that started in the childhood. That's really rare for me. I don't really like those as much. But anyways, our main characters are Delilah, and this is so annoying. His name is Macon Saint when he was in the first book, when he was in Make It Sweet, I kept I kept reading his name as Mason, just because I think my brain was just like, oh, it's an S, like whatever, Mason Saint. It's not. And they make a comment in Dear Enemy, like, oh, your name rhymes with bacon. And I just don't like the name Macon. I think Mason Saint would have sounded so much better, to the point that like it angered me in the book every time she would call him Macon, that I had to switch it to Mason in my head to make it like bearable for me, which I know is probably so stupid, but I just really didn't like that name. Anyways, Macon is, so basically they're like, they grew up together, they grew up in the same town. Macon and Delilah kind of have this like enemy type deal. Macon is dating Delilah's sister, which they're like, what are they, like Irish twins or whatever. They're like the same grade. And yeah, it's like this whole big thing. And Delilah like hates Macon and like is so upset. And then we flash forward to the future, and Delilah is a chef and is really talented and is really amazing, whatever. And Macon is an actor, and he is in the same show as Emma from Make It Sweet. Like they're co-stars. They're actually like love interests on the show. Kind of cute, kind of sweet. I mean, for myself, I personally kind of cast them as Khal Drogo and Daenerys from Game of Thrones, which is Jason Momoa and Emilia Clarke. That's kind of how I pictured them. Like I pictured Emma as Emilia Clarke, and I pictured Jason Momoa I pictured Macon as Jason Momoa. It's not said that, but I just kind of assumed that. I thought it was fun, so maybe you would think that's fun too. But yes, so they're co-workers, great, whatever. Basically, this thing happens with Delilah's sister that she like stole from Macon, so she has to like become his assistant to like kind of pay off her sister's debt so that he doesn't put the police on her sister. And they kind of start bonding and starting to realize kind of like where some of the hatred came from their childhood and stuff like that. Very fun. I liked this book. I definitely liked Make It Sweet more. And I had a couple qualms. I think it would have been really fun if Emma was not talked about at all in Dear Enemy, and I think it would have been more fun if she was talked about, so then if you read it in order, if you read Make It Sweet next, it would be more exciting because you've been dealing with like Macon's coworker. I think that would have been a cool addition. I don't know, I will say I was really excited to read Dear Enemy when I found out that they had a whole book after I read Make It Sweet, because I loved them in Make It Sweet. They were like so cute and so amazing and had all of these like cute little quirks about them, and I was so excited. And I don't think they really seemed exactly like how they were in Dear Enemy. I didn't like them nearly as much as I did in Dear Enemy. So I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt, but I was not the biggest fan. I was kind of like, okay, we're doing this. But I will say, read both of them just so at least you can have that glorious bit of Macon and Delilah that is in Make It Sweet with Lucian and Emma. The last book of March, like I said, it wasn't the last one I read, but it's the last one I'm talking about. I read Dear Enemy last. I'm not like keeping a book from you. That seems like vague. Was Misconduct, let me try that again. Misconduct by Penelope Douglas, which I also want to take a moment here of, I've recently learned that Penelope Douglas uses they, them pronouns, and I previously in a video misgendered them. So I greatly apologize for that. And please, if you are going to talk about them in the future, take this knowledge with you that they use they, them pronouns. So very cool. But anyways, misconduct. Why can't I say that word like normally, like in just like misconduct. Cool. Basically this book is, Easton is she was a like famous, like in her teens, she was like a famous, professional tennis player. And then like she lost a lot of her family in this like traumatic accident, and she kind of gave up that life and has now become a teacher, like a high school teacher. Great, cool. And one night she kind of meets this like mystery man, and she has like attraction to him, and it's like great, whatever, blah blah blah. Turns out being like the main man of the book, which is Tyler. And they kind of have this like just flirtationship in the first one when they don't know like who each other are, and it's like great. Flash forward 6 months, Easton is graduated and have her first job at this like prestigious private school where she'll be teaching like mostly freshman and sophomore, like I think it's like US and American history or something like that. Yeah, I don't really remember, but and when she's there, she realizes that one of the parents is Tyler, the dude she just like flirted with 6 months ago. I mean, they didn't do anything, they just like flirted, whatever. Yeah, and basically the book is following like, oh, and Tyler's running to be on the Senate, like to be a senator. And it takes place in New Orleans, so fun. Those are just like facts I feel like I should add into this plot summary. I don't really know. But basically they kind of just start bonding and start hanging out a lot more and start like having a relationship, but then it's like complicated because obviously like she's teaching his son, so then it's like, is that really allowed? I don't know, all of these things. So they're kind of keeping it a secret for a while. And then yeah, I'm gonna say though, this book had a lot of issues for me. This is my third Penelope Douglas I've read so far, and I've greatly liked it way less than the other two. I've read Punk 57 and Birthday Girl. Duh. Liked those way more than I like Misconduct. Misconduct? Why can't I always say Misconduct? It's Misconduct. Gosh. Anyways, liked Misconduct. Misconduct. Way, way, way less. I had problems with my sister's a teacher, and there was a lot of like issues with like the teachers, like just explaining that being a teacher, that I was like, I know that that's not true because my sister is a teacher, and I mean like not that like my sister like can speak for all teachers, but I was like, that's not really like how teaching works. And it made it weird for me because like I have this like more insider knowledge that I feel like Penelope Douglas didn't necessarily do enough research on or something, so it just felt kind of weird to me. Maybe that was present in Birthday Girl and Punk 57, I just didn't know the difference. And then there was also like a weird storyline with like Easton having a stalker and like this whole thing. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but I was just like, what is going on with this? And I also just like didn't love the couple. I was just very like meh about them the whole time. I think I liked Easton a fair amount. I didn't really like Tyler. He wasn't like the nicest and or the like most thoughtful person. I feel like he complained a lot and like gave a lot of excuses for his actions, which was kind of just like a turn off, and just like, dude, just be accountable for like your life and the choices you've made. So I don't know. I just felt it was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that's just what that book felt like to me. I was just like, yeah. And that concludes my March reading wrap up. Like I said, it was not nearly as many as January or February. It was 12 books and 2 plays, so like 14 in total. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I literally, it's also so sad because like, it's obviously spring now, like we've sprung forward, and yes, but Chicago is not aware of that. It's literally, I don't know if you can tell, can you see the thick chunks of snow that are raining down, or are snowing down, I guess I should say, outside of my room. I literally wore like my like spring shirt, and I like changed my like, usually, I don't know if you notice, it's usually my snowman. Oh no, I messed that up. But I put it in this like cute pink bucket I have because I was like, spring, like this is so sweet, like yay. Chicago said no. Chicago really snapped it back and was like, don't be too excited. It's gonna snow all day today. So that's fun, I guess. On April 2nd, it is snowing. But yeah, so thank you for this. Sorry that I literally did not really post at all in March. That's on me. Hopefully I'll be better in April. Who's to say though? Let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But as always, thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to me talk about books for a while. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it makes me very happy. So thank you for giving me an audience to talk to, because I know I talk to my friends and family about it a lot, and they probably appreciate the little break too. So thank you for that. And yeah, so goodbye, you lovely, beautiful, amazing, sweet, beautiful human. I hope you have the best day ever and the best April ever. Let's have a great April, okay? Yes? Okay. Bye. Thank you for watching. Love you. See you next time, hopefully. Mwah.